What is up, everybody? Welcome to my show, The Scary, Strange, and Paranormal True Tales from Sean. True Scary Tales. Brought to you from Murray and J08. It is October, the spooky month, I call it. The month of Halloween. We got lots of specials from The Scary, Strange, and Paranormal. And this is a special episode. We are again talking about dreams, and I got another topic to talk to you guys about at the end of this episode. But first, let's talk about dreams. Now, in our last episode, we talked a little bit about dreams, and I talk about dreams a lot on this show, and I do bring dreams back from time and time again. I think you're going to agree with me that this is probably my best episode coming up as far as that topic, because this one is really strange. Like it puts the strange in strange. It puts the strange in our title of the show, because I've talked about crazy things on this show and crazy things that have happened. I don't think for a minute stuff's been this weird as far as dreams. I've talked about in and out of body experiences. I've talked about dreaming that you were dead. I talked about past loved ones. I talked about having deja vu and dreaming that you were in a place you never saw before, and then later on in real life going there. I talked about, seeing things that happen later on in the future. I talked about having conversations with people I never met before, with faces I never saw. This one is a weird one, and I think you're going to agree. And I don't think I've ever had anything quite like this. Now, we've talked about sleep paralysis on here. We talked about how your body is almost like in a REM kind of transition where we don't know, right? That's the whole theory. Are you asleep? Are you awake? Are you half asleep? Is it really a demon? Is it spiritual? Is it religious? Is it just that there's a part of your brain that's shutting off, but there's a part of your brain that's staying on? We don't know. That's the whole thing with sleep paralysis. Something happened to me the other day that I couldn't wait to talk about on this show, and I said, I got to film it, and I want to discuss it, and I said, it's a perfect topic for an episode. It's dream-related, and I've been through it all. I had night terrors when I was young. I had recurring dreams that would just keep coming back where they left off. I would have the same dream over and over again for months. This is not the same. This is something different, completely, totally different. Now, a lot of times what happens is that you can dream of stuff that you hear or see during the day, sometimes not even knowing that you're paying attention to it, just by listening. And your brain is sucking that in without you even knowing it, and you dream about it later. Sometimes you have a dream where you wake up and you don't remember it, but you know you had a dream. Or you remember the dream, but by the time you get fully awake, it's gone out of your head. And sometimes you'll go weeks and weeks without dreaming, and you say to yourself, man, I haven't dreamed in a while. But I read that's actually technically not true. It's just that you don't remember everything, and sometimes you're not remembering, but supposedly we're constantly dreaming. So, with all that being said, definitely no stranger to dreams on this show. We've talked about it numerous times. Well, here's one for you. And here's one for me, because I never experienced nothing like this. And I've talked to people around me, and they've never experienced it either. I'm wondering if you guys did. I want you to chime in on the comments and let me know once you hear my story. So I had went to bed early. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I slept through the night. I actually slept really good. Like no problems at all. I slept really good. And I went to bed, and the thing is that my parents had told me. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. See? I'm messing it up. They didn't. But apparently what had happened was that my parents had I'm downstairs in an apartment. We have like a mother and daughter house. So I'm downstairs with my wife in the apartment. They're upstairs. So I'm downstairs. And it was on the weekend. So my wife was off work. Actually, I think she was making breakfast. I had slept in that morning because I was up all night working on a podcast or whatever I was working on. I was working on a review for somebody, helping them out. And I was up late and I was watching movies or whatever, YouTube, and I was catching up on my subscribers, whatever. So I had slept in a bit. I'd gotten up early, I think, to get my medicine, but then I think I went back to bed, is what happened. So anyway, I didn't know, and anyway, why would I, that they were going to be leaving in the morning, my parents, to go into New York to go shopping. So they were going to leave, pretty early, but not too early. Now, we have a Jack Russell, okay? Mario. And you've probably seen him numerous times on the channel or in pictures. And he's a trip and a half. And he is something else. And he flips out when my parents leave. A lot of times I'll go up there and I'll be with him because he has anxiety. He'll howl, he'll pace, he'll bark. He has like a nervous mental breakdown if anybody leaves. Even if he finds out I left, like if he sees me going out the driveway. He's just really an emotional attached dog. Like he flips out if anybody in the family leaves. He just flips out. He goes into like, a depression. This dog is, I could tell you stories about this dog. He's super scary smart. Like the shit he does, the tricks and whatnot. He's a smart dog. So anyway, long story short, they leave. Well, he's flipping out up there, but I'm in a dead sleep. I don't know nothing. I didn't even know they were leaving. I know nothing. My wife's in the kitchen making eggs. I'm still sleeping. Well, I have a dream. I'm in the middle of a dream. And I'm going to tell you this dream right now. I'm in a dining room table. I'm not sure where I was, but it was very bright. And at the table, I'm having dinner. And everybody is there from my family that passed away. Basically, everybody there is dead. Now, again, I've had this discussion before. I don't know if they know that I know they're dead. In the dream, I knew that they were dead. But I didn't let them know because sometimes the dream ends if you do that. So I didn't want to tip them off. So I just went along with the flow. I wasn't scared or anything. I always want to talk to my relatives or friends when I see them and they're passed away. I always want to see what they say. But a lot of times they don't stay long. So, well, I was there and I was sitting down and my uncle, Frank, which is my mother's brother, he died very young. He died on a roof doing a job, cleaning windows. He was there. My grandmother, my mom's mom, she was there. Her sister, my aunt, she was there. Her other sister was there. My cousin's dad, that just passed away recently, he was there. Who else was there? It was all family. Oh. And her brother, my grandmother's brother, was there. He was like 80 or 90 when he died. And my Uncle Tony was there, my aunt's husband. So basically all my family relatives that have died were there. Not all of them, but all the ones that were there were dead. There was nobody living but me. And they were all eating. And the whole time in the dream, Mario was barking. But Mario couldn't be found. My Jack Russell, he was barking, barking, barking. And what the crazy thing was is that I couldn't hear anybody talk in the dream. And I wanted to listen to what they were saying. So my grandmother's going to my Aunt B, what the heck is going on here? And then she said, what's that? Where's that barking coming from? This is in the dream. And my dog is barking and barking and barking wherever in the dream. Barking and barking and barking. So my Uncle Frank looks at me, my mom's brother. He was an animal lover. Let me tell you something. This guy he used to take me to zoos. He had every pet in the world. He was like me. He came up to me and he said, Sean, he said, you have a dog? And I looked at him and I said, you could hear that? And he goes, yeah, it's barking. So my Aunt B goes to him, hey, Frankie. She called him Frankie. Why don't you go show him all the animals you got up here? So he says, all right. So he gets up and he takes off. But I awoke from the dream. My wife, Michelle, is waking me up. And you know what she said? Sean, wake up. Mario's upstairs barking. He won't stop. Is that fucked? Is that fucking weird or what? Is that think about that. Like, does that make any sense? Like, I know they say that when we dream, it's made up in our head. But then they say, well, when you dream about the dead, you're really connecting with them and it's almost like you can see the other side, or your brain can signal other abilities that it can't when you're awake. And you know what's weird is I didn't even know he was barking because I was sleeping. I didn't even know that they had left, my parents. And here they are, my relatives in my dream telling me about him, that they could hear him through the dream. And then my wife wakes me up out of the dream to tell me that Mario's upstairs barking. And then I went up there after she woke me up and he was in the window. I never had an experience like that. And you know what? I don't even know what that would be called. Like it's like that is the weirdest thing. I told my mom that story. And she was like, wow, that is a story. That is like really something. And it's almost like it's meant to be like I was meant to wake up. Like you always say to yourself, I wonder what would happen in a dream if I wasn't woken up. But I almost think it's like meant to be played out like that, like a script in a movie. Like you were meant not to play it out. I wanted to share that with you guys. Chime in on the comments below and tell me what you think about that story. But I think it's just very interesting, and I think it was definitely something weird that happened. Here's something else strange. Here's a tale, a folklore tale for you. And I'll tell you how it relates to me and the channel. El Sibone. Have you heard about this guy? This is one badass dude. Don't ever mess with El Sibone. You heard? Don't mess with El Sibone. Because you mess with El Sibone, you're messing with the worst. I've talked about a lot of demons and ghosts and creatures and folklore on this channel, but I never talked about old El Sibone. Let's talk about the legend. So, he was a beautiful, beautiful man. He grew up a fresh boy. But he did his chores, he listened to his mama, his mooma. And he took advantage of the father. I don't know what it was. He knew he could get over on the father. Like the father, I guess, wasn't as strict with him. The mother was. He didn't play around with the mother. No. But the father was strict. So one day the mother was strict, but the father, he just let everything go. So he says to the father, he says, "Hey, I want some deer meat." They were poor. So they didn't have much. So they hunted and grew all their food and crops, and they lived off the land. They didn't have like a supermarket. So the father said, okay, he goes, I'll go out hunting. It's like below zero, whatever. He goes, I'll go fetch you some venison, some deer. He was gone for hours. He came back with nothing. The son said, what the fuck, bro? What am I supposed to eat now? Slim Jims? So the father says, I'm sorry, son. Have some stale biscuits. I'll go out in the morning and I'll go and try to get another deer. The son murdered him in the middle of the night. And stabbed him. And what he did was he cooked the father in the fireplace. And he called the mother out in the middle of the night and said, Mom, I went hunting myself. I got some food. And the mother started eating the father. It was worse than Kelly Ripa. So, all of a sudden, the mother started going like this with her mouth. And she said, this has a strange taste. I've had deer before. This doesn't taste like deer. And then she saw part of his pants in her mouth. And she says, this tastes like your father. Well, she found out that she was eating her husband. Well, she flipped out. Well, there was a grandfather. So she woke the grandfather up. And the grandfather says, "You will forever be scorned and cursed." So he grabbed the boy, he tied him up, and he says, "I'm going to take you to be beaten." So he took him and he tied him up in the middle of a field, and he beat him with a whip, and then he rubbed his wounds in with salt and alcohol. And the kid was screaming, crying, being tortured by the horrible grandfather. He looked like the grandfather from the Waltons. And then what he did was he released the child and he says, "You're never welcomed home again. Run free. Take off." And he released him with 2 rabid dogs. And then he said, "You must do this for eternity." And he gave him a sack to hold above his shoulders of his father's bones. So the tale is, when you hear whistling, it's El Sibone walking around with his father's bones. That's the story of El Sibone. Well, the reason why I bring up old El Sibone is because we've heard him here. Me and my cousin, we've heard him around here. And we believe that old El Sibone is now a local New Jersey legend. And I've talked to people, serious interview, and people have told me, yeah, I heard him. We didn't know who was whistling. We thought maybe like a bum lived in the woods. El Sibone lives in New Jersey. Actually, the whole upper North America. I've heard all the way up to Maine. Have you heard about the legend of El Sibone? Let me know in the comments below. Take care, guys. The scary, strange, and paranormal. Hope to see ya on the next episode. Stay spooky, guys. Wow, El Sibone. What a shame. What a shame. What a horrible person. Wow. That's terrible.